Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. It's time for the part 3 of my Drawing with Crayons challenge. And guys, this has been such a blast. I am enjoying it so much, and I'm excited to share with you all of my experience on this. In my first video, I used the classic Crayola crayons, and in my second, I used the pastel series. Now in this third video, I am using their glitter crayons, and I still don't know what I'm drawing yet. Feel free to pause the video right now, head down to the comment section, and comment what you think I should draw with glitter crayons. If you did that, thank you. Now let's get into the actual drawing. Guys, I'm terrified. I've got all the supplies I need. I've got my canvas panel, and I've got my glitter crayons. Now for this one, I thought I'd take it just a little bit further. I want to use every single idea I have on this project. So I'm actually going to be using it kind of more of as a mixed media piece instead of just the crayons themselves. Kind of playing to their strengths and, you know, filling in their weaknesses with other things. Alright you guys, so I'm back. I just went and grabbed all of the supplies that I really want to use for this project. So I've got my sketchbook to do my swatches and anything that I'm planning on experimenting with and aren't entirely sure as to how it's actually going to turn out. That is what the sketchbook is for. And then of course I've got my pencil, and I also grabbed a pencil sharpener, not for the mechanical pencil. See, for a moment there I looked at it and I was like, wait, I don't actually need that because I have a mechanical pencil, but no. I do need it because I'm also going to be using some pencils. And it just so happens that I'm going to be using my watercolor pencils. Just so happened that my watercolor pencils were way more organized than my regular colored pencils, so these are the ones I'm using because nobody wants to see the mess of my regular colored pencils. Alright, so I've got my watercolor pencils and a sharpener for the watercolor pencils, not the mechanical pencils. And then I also have Posca markers. Let's get into the actual drawing of this. First of all, I want to swatch out these colors. Alright, so now that we're over here, you know, we got our crayons. And obviously the first thing I gotta do is I gotta sort these because this is going to drive me absolutely nuts. You know what I just realized? I'm looking at it, like really looking at it. I don't really see a whole lot of glitter in here. Now I'm really disappointed. I had the greatest idea as to what I was going to draw to use the glitter. And there's no glitter! And then the black, which is so satisfying. Alright, I'm actually not going to use the canvas panel for this one. So I'm actually just going to draw these flowers over here. So let's just do a little bit of sketching. And this will actually be interesting because those are fake flowers. So if these turn out really well, I will be so thrilled. I will say these are some of the most realistic flowers I have ever seen. And flowers, you guys, even if you get the proportions super far off, they usually still look like flowers. They might not look like the same flower as you tried to draw, but they will still look like flowers. And that is why I recommend so much that you start with flowers when you are a beginner, because man, you just take so much of the pressure off yourself when you're starting with flowers, because no matter what, you will end up with a good result. It might not be exactly what you were after, but it would still be really good. Hey, you guys, I just looked at the side of my hand, and you probably can't see this. Such a shame. You probably can't see it, but I see the glitter now. It's on my hand, but it's not on the paper. So weird. So very weird. Alright, so now I'm actually going to get into the coloring of this, and this is, ooh, I'm so excited. Now I am a little bit sad again. The crayons didn't come with white. I feel like a white is just so important. It makes such a huge difference in my art, and I feel like it can make a huge difference in many people's art. So I'm a little sad about that. However, we are going to make do, aren't we? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to figure out the colors that I want to complement the actual flowers. So the flowers have like pink and white and a little bit of yellow on them. So that, obviously white I can't really show, but because of that, I'm going to kind of try to figure out colors that would go really, really well with this, but might actually be darker or something like that, so that it just makes a whole lot more sense. So I think I'm definitely going to use purple because I feel like that would look really, really good. But then maybe I'm going to throw in a little bit of this blue and this black. So I'm actually going to start with background first because I feel like that's what's going to set the contrast for this. So I'm thinking like right next to the branches and the flowers and such, I'm going to use this purple color. Mainly because I kind of want to make a little bit of a glow, like right next to everything, and then make it darker as it goes out. And then make it a little bit darker as we go out. I will say I'm definitely seeing a difference though, between using those canvas panels and just using this basic sketchbook. Like, I feel like I have a lot more control as to how grainy and gritty this ends up coming out. Whereas with the other two projects, I definitely felt like I was fighting the paper a little bit. But I assumed it was the crayons. This is why you test things before doing things. Also, because I'm not fighting the paper as much, I haven't broken any of these crayons yet. Which I did a lot with the other two sets. Now you guys, one thing I wanted to mention is just, you notice I said that I wanted to kind of have it lighter in the center and then get darker as it goes out. You might think that you would just put purple in the center and then the next color and then the darkest color and call that good. But actually what you want to do is you want to overlap them, and more than that, you want to allow the colors to go in like behind multiple objects to help it feel like it's all a part of the same subject. Otherwise you kind of separate things and, you know, make it so your drawing almost looks like it's in chunks, where you have your purple section and you have your blue section and you have your black section, whereas we want that beautiful, beautiful transition between all of these different colors. So what you want to do is you want to overlap them, you want to kind of allow them to come into each other's territories. Alright, so I got my purple in there and I think it's looking really good. At this point, I'll probably come back through and, you know, blend it out a little bit or something, I don't know. So now I'm just going to go through with this blue and, like I said, overlapping it. So this is kind of where I want the blue to start. On top of the purple, so you can see some of the purple showing through here. And I'm not using a whole lot of pressure. I'm kind of just lightly going on top of the purple, and yeah. And I'm definitely noticing it is blending so much better on just regular paper compared to the canvas panels. So this definitely like is a massive, massive surprise to me a little bit, and also just, you know, a learning lesson. You don't always have to buy special supplies to make something work. You can make something work with whatever you have. And sometimes what you have will turn out to be better. You know, just a thought. You know, just a thought. I know I'm biased, but I am really enjoying this project, but also I am liking how this one is turning out so much more than the first two, which is ridiculous because I'm not putting nearly as much work into this one as I did the other two, which is kind of sad. Anyway, now that the blue's done, I'm going to go back in with the black. And here's the thing with the black. Okay, we want to be careful because we're planning on using a little bit of yellow later. And the thing with yellow mixed with black is it creates kind of a muddy color. It creates really just kind of a muddy color. And we don't want that. So we want to keep the yellow in its zone, and we want to keep the black in its zone. And, you know, they're not allowed to have a party together, okay? They are not allowed to have a slumber party or anything like that, okay? They are not allowed to hang out, okay? Yeah, that probably sounded absolutely ridiculous, but, you know, most colors kind of go well together, and you want to overlap them, kind of like what I was just mentioning with the background. However, with the yellow and the black, you do not want to do that, okay? Alright, now that my rant is over, let's get into actually adding the black to this background. So I'm basically just adding it to the very edges of this, making sure to avoid flowers at all costs, because if I get it on the flowers, I am ruined. Although, you know, if I did get it on the flowers, I could start over by tracing this and then transferring my sketch, which I did make a video on just a couple weeks ago, which I will have linked up above and down in the video description if you want to check that out. I'm just going to go in with the purple real quick. This time I'm putting it in the same place that I put it before. However, this time I am just adding a tiny bit more pressure. And the idea is to kind of blend the two colors together. Just go on in with the blue again. Now to see what I can do with mixed media. This is going to be very interesting. So now I'm just going through, see if this works or not. I'm going to use the Posca markers on this to kind of bring out the petals a little bit better. I might need to do a couple different layers to get the opacity where I want it. Just going to do a couple to see if I like how that looks. I'm just going to pull out some pink and just add a little bit of color in here. Go back through with my white, help it blend out a little bit. It's coming along. I'm just going to add a base of white. Some of these others. Now there's going to be pink on this because I mixed it with the other. I'm just going to go with it. Just going to let this dry for a few minutes and come back to it. Now this is kind of a risk. I'm actually going to go through with a bit of solvent on the background to see if it'll blend it out a little bit. Which it does. It also, I think my solvent is a little bit dirty, so it looks a little bit muddy. But I'm hoping I can go back on top of that with some more crayon. We'll see if I end up going on top of it with more crayon or just leaving it slightly blended like this. Alright, now I'm just going to let that dry and I'll come back to it in a bit. Alright, now I'm just going to go through and repeat what I did with the other flowers, where I'm basically covering up the sketch with a base of white, adding a little bit of pink, blending it out into the white, and repeating until all of the petals are covered. I'm really, really surprised and excited to see just how well this paper is holding up with all of these different things that I'm throwing at it. A lot of papers won't do that. A lot of other papers would have just completely fallen apart by now. You would have ripped, had holes in them, and a whole bunch of other things. Just adding some pink and blending it into the white a little bit. Now I'm just going to let that dry and I'll come back through to touch it up a little bit. Alright, so while that dries, I'm actually going to see if I can go on top of this with another layer of crayon. I have my doubts though. Yeah, it comes on a little bit, but not very much. So, I really want this background to be more vibrant. So, with every challenge in art, there is always a solution. So, we just have to think of what the solution might be for this. Now, clearly the problem is that there's not enough texture for the crayon to grip onto anymore. We filled in most of it with the crayon in the first few layers, and then second we added solvent, which kind of tenderized it, or like made it super soft, and probably pushed it all together, making it very smooth. Which means there's not much texture there to work with. So how can we add texture? Well, we have a few different options. There are the super easy go-tos like fixatives, texture fixatives especially, which is an option. Another option is to use like touch-up texture, which you can just kind of paint on. It's a clear like texture additive to your paper, which is very effective, and I really like that method. However, you would end up using a lot of it on this because we are covering nearly the entire background. So the next question is, if we can't use those two, what else can we do? And I think what I'm probably going to go with is option number 3, which is to reestablish all of the tooth of the paper. And the way I'm going to do that is actually in the same way I would make pastel matte paper, which is by adding pastel ground to this paper. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pastel ground and I'm going to paint it on. I'm going to let it dry completely overnight and then come back to it tomorrow to go on top of it with more crayon. So I will be back with you guys when it's dry. And actually, since we're trying things, I'm gonna see if I can use this spatula instead, because one, I can't find my other paintbrush, and two, this would be a lot easier to clean. So far it seems to be working pretty well. We'll have to see if the texture is really weird in the morning though. Obviously, as you can see, we are losing a lot of the vibrancy, a lot of the clarity in our piece, which is always a massive downside to doing this because there is no going back. You do this, you have to go on top of it again or it will not look good. I have never done this and had it look good after I did it. It is not a varnish, it is not a final fixative. This is simply to allow you to keep going. So don't freak out, this is totally normal. We will be able to come on top of this and honestly just make it so much better. It's kind of like going backwards to push forward, I guess. Every piece of artwork will have its ugly stage, and apparently this is it for this particular project. So we just kind of keep going until the whole thing is covered. And of course, since we are using a sketchbook, our sketchbook is going to buckle a little bit under this because it is a liquid sort of paste. And no matter what, if you use paper with anything that's slightly damp, it's going to buckle. Alright, that is it. We are going to leave this completely overnight and come back to it tomorrow morning. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the next day of this project. Hello everybody, it's morning, it's time to get back to work on this project. So, overnight it is completely dried. We have just enough texture, hopefully, to keep going with this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo the background, starting with my purple like I did before. And you can immediately see how much more it's sticking to the paper than it did last night. Now I'm just going through, losing my voice. I'm just going through with the blue and putting it where we did before, just kind of along the edges and then a little bit overlapping the purple. Alright, now that's done, we're going to refine the actual flowers. So for this, I'm just going to add my pink, basically where I did with the Posca markers before. Just trying to build up that depth just a little bit. I will say that's probably one of the biggest downfalls to crayon, is the fact that you can't get really nitty-gritty details with it. It's just too wide of a tip, and it sticks to the paper so much. Alright, now I'm just going to go on top with my white Posca marker again. Alright, now I'm just going to go through with some of my watercolor pencils. I probably won't actually activate these with water so much as just using them to add some final details to these petals. So I'm going to start with this pink. Same places we added the crayon before, but then also adding a few strokes on top of the white to add some veins in here. Just repeating this with all of the petals. Alright, now I'm just going to add some red on top of that in the darkest areas. And you'll instantly see how adding that darker color just brings so much life into this. Now I'm just going to add touches of kind of this orangish yellow in here. Not a lot, just a little bit to make the piece look a little bit more interesting. Alright, now I'm just going through with this light green Posca marker on the branches. Not quite as bright as I was hoping it would show up to be, so I'm going to let it dry and then go on top of it with a layer of white and then add the green once more. Alright, so now that that's dried, I'm just going to go back through with another layer of my light green. Now I'm just going to go through with my watercolor pencils once again, just with a dark green and also with a brown. Now I'm just going through with my darkest shadows and adding some of this dark brown. And that is it for this project. I am so excited with how this turned out. If you enjoyed this video, why not? Let me know by leaving a like, and feel free to check out my other 2 videos in this series where I continued to have a ton of fun with this challenge. Anyways, thank you for watching, and until next time, God bless.